Wholeness. Welcome to Runes of Silvertree. This is Silvertree here, and this is a continuation of our frequency war discussions that we've been having every Wednesday. So thank you so much for tuning in today. So today I want to talk about something that I have actually been struggling with for about a month, but it's okay. Once I get settled in and everything, because it usually takes me about a month and a half to 2 months to get acclimated to a new space, a new place, and with my sleep. Okay, that is the topic today. Is sleep. How you rest is how you will rise. And what's the relationship with frequency wars, right? The frequency wars, the subtle energies that are controlling and manipulating everything in our day-to-day life. And I've come to the conclusion, how we rest, okay, is incredibly important. And it's one of those things that kind of gets swept under the rug when it comes to any type of spiritual practice, right? A lot of us that are probably, have extremely strong discipline streak where we like schedules, we like structure, we get up at a specific time, we like to go to bed at a specific time, we like to do things in a that follows a schedule, that follows a routine. And then some of us don't. There are a lot of beings who just kind of like to go with the flow. If I'm tired, I'm going to sleep, right? If have a lot of energy, I'm going to go out and do something. But most of the time, as someone who studies my own personal natural organic cycles, okay, and it kind of helps, having a womb, being a womb man, having those the menses once a month, because you literally can tell when those cycles and those shifts and those changes with your emotional bodies come into play. And so when it comes to our sleeping, when it comes to our rest, that's something that doesn't really get discussed a lot. I find a lot of the time in the spiritual community, they talk about, interdimensional happenings, interdimensional experiences and entities and dreams and all that, and the dream world and astral world. But it's how we set ourselves up to rest that determines how we will rise for the next day, determines how we will connect with our conscious world. Okay, for example, you party, you go out, you come home at 2 a.m., you have to get to work at 8 a.m., or you have to get up, really early by like 6 to get to work by 8. So you go to sleep at 2, it's broken, you ate too much, you skipped breakfast and all this other stuff that creates like these unhealthy patterns, okay? And a lot of the time what I've noticed is that for people who work quite a lot, who work more than the average 8 hours, or you have a lot going on, your children, or you're working 2 jobs, a lot of the time is what happens when we run out of time, when we feel like we're running out of time, we tend to try to make up for it. We'll make up for lost time, we'll make up for lost sleep, and that's just not how it should go, right? And so when we rest well, when we rest well, we allow our bodies to re-engage, to regenerate, we allow our minds to take a break, to take a breath, we allow our emotional part of ourselves to connect to that subconscious mind, and we allow the subconscious mind to speak to us. When we rest well, those channels that connect us to the other worlds, the dream worlds, the astral worlds, the spirit world, they begin to open up and replenish us. However, when we deplete our physical self, our physical bodies, that depletes what the spirit world and what the energy world can do for us. Yes, I say energy world, right? But it's what the dream world can do for us. what our subconscious mind can tell us and expose to us truths that need to be revealed. But if we don't get the rest that we need, we deplete ourselves. And this is something that, you know, again, it ties into technocracy. If you have a screen, whether it's a laptop, cell phone, or TV, if you have a screen, it's meant to disrupt your resting time, your sleeping time. You won't be able to rest well. How do I know this? Because again, you know, in this cycle of the deer, the wild deer, there's a lot of movement, okay, for me. That this is what I've studied in my own personal cycle in this season. When there's lots of movement, new jobs, leaving jobs, new cities, leaving old cities, leaving things behind, having to buy new things, having to reapply and get registered here and there. There's a lot that's being demanded and pushed and pulled, having to revisit old things, especially if you're moving back to your hometown. It can be quite a lot on the conscious mind, on the conscious physical body that's awake, okay? And so with that, rest becomes so important. That the more that's demanded of you physically, the more you need to rest. And the more you need to create the space to rest. When you don't create the space for rest, you will not receive what you need. The body will not receive what it needs. The subconscious will start to suffocate. That's when nightmares start to creep in, right? Because you're interrupting and disrupting that flow and that connection. So resting is very, very, very important. Now, again, in time, you know, once I have a little bit more, what am I trying to say here? I want to get deeper into my personal interpretation of time, because my interpretation of time is very cyclical, very, very, very cyclical, meaning things repeat themselves. There's a high, there's a low, there's a midpoint, right? There's a high, there's a low, there's a space of neutrality, the space in between, those minutes, those seconds, those hours, those days, those seasons. And when you begin to tune into your own natural cycles, you'll then begin to understand and understand and overstand the cycles that are around you, that are programmed into you, that are conditioned, you know, from a young person, you know. But back into sleep and the importance of preparing for rest, right? There are areas where you need to focus. Creating the space to rest, preparing for rest, actually resting, okay? And then how you rise. Because if you rest well, you're going to be much more receptive to the new energies, okay? The new cycle of a new day. But if you don't rest well, you're gonna get locked into another timeline. The things that happened yesterday that weren't taken care of, the things that hurt you the other day, or you didn't get in, you weren't able to process. We in the spiritual community need to focus more on the importance of our sleep. And I prefer saying rest, because sleeping is being unconscious, completely just you're not aware. But resting is the body resting, the body being able to regenerate. Okay? Like, that's something I really, really hope. It's something that's very powerful, because once you tune into the power of resting and you're getting the rest that you need, that's when energies in other worlds than these can truly begin to connect. You can truly begin to remember your dreams and those messages that come through. It's incredibly important. And we live in a society where if you're sleeping or resting yourself, then you're lazy. This is something I have a hard time with, and this month has been a huge challenge for me, Because right now it's like, okay, I need to find a job. I need to do this. I need to go, 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 go. I like to do things. And if I'm not doing something, I'm not being productive. If I'm not being productive, I'm not being creative. If I'm not being creative, then I am wasting my time. Oh, time. We're programmed to believe that we're going to miss out on something. Fear of missing out, the FOMO, right? Even in my partner, my dear partner, like, he needs the sleep, right? Because he's working. So he needs the sleep. He needs the rest. His body needs the rest. And he'll stay up past his bedtime, which everyone should have a bedtime. You should. We give bedtimes to children because why? Children need to rest. They get cranky. They have tantrums. They get sick. They don't eat right. If they don't sleep right, they don't rest right. They don't rest well. But yet, when we're adults, we're then told, no, you can't sleep, you have to work. Because if you don't work, you can't live. You can't live the life you deserve. If you don't rest well, you're going to miss out. You're going to miss out on this job opportunity. You're going to miss out on some kind of opportunity that will help you get ahead of the game, which the game is an illusion. You see, it's a very deep thing. And I feel like with these frequency wars, okay, that are taking place, our rest is being, and yes, excuse my French, but fucked with. Fucked with severely. How do I know? Because these devices are addictive. You've got to, in order to create the space for sleep, you have to create a space to lock these little devices away. Put them away, store them away. I like to designate a whole room for all of our laptops, our music speakers, our sound speakers, sound system, our cell phones, our chargers, anything electrical, or even our Wi-Fi. All that stuff is locked away, not locked away, but it's put away, stored away in one condensed area so it doesn't affect us, because we're psychologically programmed to be addicted to these things. And it disrupts, it distracts, it cuts our focus off. And when you have this, if the first thing you grab is your phone, and I struggle with this too. I struggle with it. For this month, I have. Ever since owning an iPhone, to be honest, a smartphone, right? Or a laptop or anything. But that's the first thing that goes. When your focus is gone, you become vulnerable to anything and everything that can manipulate you through the screen. So one little secret I can help that helps me and helps my partner, your space of rest shouldn't have not even a digital clock in there. Nothing should be in there but your crystals and your plants and your books or whatever. It should just be focused on the place for rest and for, how do I say this? Adult things, right? Because it is a space for, if you are in you're a couple, it's a space for those creative life force energies. I'll just say that, okay? But it's incredibly important that you create a space specifically for rest, so those subtle energy, powerful energy, interdimensional energies can work for you in your best interest. So you're not, because everything is giving off all these frequencies, like I've mentioned before, talking about sound, right? Like, can you hear? Can you, are you really listening? Because it's our rest that's being disrupted. That's the foundation of our day and our night. And if you don't create the space for resting, it's just, you're doing yourself a disservice. Okay? And also you must create a space for your rising in the morning. Creating that meditative space, creating that space where you're journaling, creating that space where you're taking 10 minutes before you start your day and you're reading something important, or you're listening, or not even listening, you're listening to what source has within you. You know, practicing silence within those first moments before the sun rises. So again, I want to do a whole series on cyclical time versus linear time, and why there's all like this it's a whole thing I want to get into in one of an upcoming series for sure. But I just want to ask you what your relationship is with your rest. How do you prepare for rest so that you may rise in the best, most balanced way? And not every day is perfect, not every night is perfect, right? Because we have things to do. We're living our human lives. But in general, if you're finding that your sleep is broken and you're not getting you can't recall your dreams very well, you're waking up in the middle of the night, you know, it can be very disruptive to your spiritual energy field, okay? And even your physical experience. Your rest is paramount. And the better rest you have, the less naps you'll need, in my personal opinion, okay? But thank you so much for tuning into this message, and may this message find you well and whole. I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. Take care.